Greetings, hello everyone around the world. I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and I'm located about 10 miles north of Ridgway, Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains at 7,000 feet here. And boy, after spending 2 weeks down in Phoenix, I come back up here and whew, I've certainly been noticing the altitude. It is quite different. We're at 7,000 feet. We flew the new aircraft back to home here. It's up in Delta, Colorado, in a hangar. And then the instructor from Phoenix who flew with me back up here stayed on, gave me a couple more days instruction at the new airport, and then took off yesterday for home. So it's been quite a trip. I want to especially thank Don DeGidio for the $25 super chat, and he said he'll start off the super chat for the day. Thank you very much for that. Super chat is open. For those of you who don't know what that is a way that you can, if you want. It's not mandatory, it's not expected. It's just for those who would like to contribute to channel funds. They can put them in there. The channel funds get used for many, many different things. Some are used, even for flight lessons, but some are used to purchase new equipment. For example, I just purchased the DX Commander antenna, which has arrived. I'm going to have a new assistant, who's actually an old assistant, Julian Wanneberger. He will be starting this afternoon. And there has been some discussion about the adequacy of the instructions for the DX Commanders. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it to Julian to put together. And we'll see very quickly if the instructions are okay. And we'll put a video together of his experience constructing the antenna. And then, of course, we'll put it through the usual testing like we do all the time. The DX Commander is a very popular antenna. It comes out of the UK, so it takes a little while to ship here. And it's, I think in US dollars, it was with shipping something like $275. But we've got that all squared away for that. I've got lots of other things I need to make videos on, but the big push is going to be to get the rest of the amateur extra videos updated. That seems to be of major interest to many people, that those get updated. I am finding so far that there's not terribly much difference between the old and the new. There are some things that have been added, some things that have been moved, and I'm trying to get everything in the right place so everything will line up with the new book. The new book, of course, was effective July 1st with the new question set, and we'll go through 2024. So we'll have that updated, and then I'll have the memory sticks available with the videos on it for those of you who want to study in a non-traditional YouTube type setting. What's on the video sticks is identical to what's on YouTube. So if you have good access to YouTube, you don't need to get one of the video sticks, unless, for example, you're going to give it as a gift to some other ham that you'd like to encourage to upgrade. The temperature here, it was interesting when Kevin, my CFI, and I got to Cortez, where we stayed the night. We marveled at how cool it was. It was 90 degrees, but that was, are you ready for this, 25 degrees cooler than it had been in Phoenix. And so it seemed quite reasonable. I'm happy to be in an air-conditioned room, though, I will tell you. It is 83 or 89 outside. We're having a heat wave. When I first moved down here in, it would have been 2003, we only needed the air conditioner for a few weeks in August. Now we use it all summer long, and it's just, we've been on a definite warming trend here. Unfortunately, that means more drought. Drought is not unusual for this area. No year is ever normal. We usually have 5 or 6 years of drought, and then one whale of a doozy year with incredible amounts of snow. And then it goes back to a few more years of drought. So we either have way more than normal or most of the time way less. It all averages out to what normal would be. Okay. 96 people, 12 thumbs up. Well, there's 24 now. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Nice Saturday evening. Who had time in his country or where Mogan had a nice Mogan. I'm not sure what Mogan. Morgan is morning. My German is really, really, really bad. Okay. Dave, have you ever thought about doing a video on an antenna for an HOA? One of the questions I've got concerns HOAs. There's lots of different ways HOAs do things. Sometimes if you just put a wire antenna that isn't visible from the street, people don't mind. Other times, if you just so much as leave a coax connector on the patio floor, the homeowners association gets upset. It's very varied. I'll talk about that a little bit with one of the questions here. How is the Zygu going? It's exactly where I left it 3 weeks ago. It's right here on the desk. I need to do lots of things. Let's see, new digital numbers on the AE test. Okay, well, I'll look at those when we get to that. Thank you, John, for your kind words. Let's see, only province with no PST. By the way, when I was in Arizona, it was interesting. The Navajo Reservation, which is like the northern quarter of Arizona, it's huge. They go on daylight savings time, but the rest of Arizona does not. So you have to remember that when you leave the reservation and get into Flagstaff, you have to change the time back to Mountain Standard Time, which they are on all year round. Right now that matches Pacific Daylight Time. So they're one of the few places in the country that does not change time zones, and it's really only part of the state. I find it interesting that the Navajo Nation would make the time change, but the rest of the state would not. Of course, they're to a very large degree independently governed, and that's probably why. The Navajo Nation was shut down. Nothing was stirring. I stayed at a hotel in Kayenta, and it was a Hampton. And they were open. They had a room for me. There were hardly any guests. No restaurants were open. Gas stations were open as long as you could do credit card at the pump, but you couldn't go inside. There were no restrooms. There was nothing. I mean, that whole place was shut down. And only a couple people working at the hotel, because the Navajo Nation has been hit very hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. And they live in their culture, you'll have many generations of people under one roof. So if some young person catches the virus and has no symptoms, it can be passed on to their elderly. And that's what's been happening back there. Okay, did you get Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 yet? I have not. Frankly, I don't know what to buy. I look at the advertisements and it's for Xbox, it's for this, it's for that. You need this version or this version and so on. I can't figure it all out. So I just need to know what version to buy, and I guess I'll try it. I need a version that gives me the equivalent or some equivalent that's very similar to the airplane that I have, so I can practice maneuvers without having to find a CFI and go up to Delta and fly. By the way, I really like the airplane. It's a nice airplane. It's basic, about as basic as you can get. Okay, from Indianapolis, who just had a military flyover, practice for the Indianapolis 500, which is tomorrow. Well, guys, good luck with that. I have questions concerning Yaesu System Fusion. I'm considering the FT70DR. My local repeater has fusion. If I use the digital mode, does it tie up the repeater like the analog use does? Yes, it really does. basically 1 or 2 people can be talking at once on that. I know DMR you can have 2 people. I'm not sure on System Fusion, but I would think that you should just go ahead and make that purchase there and get on System Fusion if that's what all your friends are doing. Welcome from Northern Ireland. Hello, John. Welcome here. Golf India 4, Sierra Zulu uniform. Okay. In this spring, I had 2-foot square lightweight box shipped from Germany to US for under 20 in 3 days. Shipping these days, oh yeah, is a real problem. Shipping right now in the US, the problem is people are buying online faster than they can expand shipping capability, and it's getting really bad. And what they're doing to the post office isn't helping at all either. But I had boxes, I couldn't take very much back on this little airplane, so I had to ship a couple boxes of stuff home. Had a heck of a time getting rid of the rental car. They were saying, well, you got to take it back to Montrose. And I'm going, I don't care if I have to. I'm not. So tell me where to drop it. We finally found a Hertz corporate location in Glendale, Arizona. Funny thing about the Navajo Nation using the DST is that the Hopi reservation does not. That's interesting. Yeah, they are entirely surrounded by the Navajo. Florida is petitioned to be the only state that could run on DSD all year round. I actually prefer daylight saving time to the standard time. You get just a little bit more sun in the evening. Let's see. What has been released on the PC? Oh, yeah, the Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know what the deal is on that. Is it worth buying a Yaesu HR1200 now, considering the SCU40 kit gets you on Wires X? I don't know. I don't know enough about the VHF products. Talk to your club members. Dave, don't buy any flight simulation until we talk. I'm about to fly my TBM from Tucson to Denver. I've been flight simming a while and can help with everything, including ATC. I have both X-Plane and this one made by Lockheed, which I can't figure out. X-Plane works fine. And I've got it set up so that I can just push a button and it puts me already in flight after having left the airport, and then I can practice maneuvers, which is what I need to do. I've always done a lot better with brain work than brawn work, and I was never an athlete, and so the eye-hand coordination and the finesse of the muscle memory is a real struggle for me. So I'm a slow learner for my flight practical training. I just need to find an instructor who's patient with me and will stay with me. Okay, basic is good. That's why I went with the 7200. Okay, kind of like Alaska with the multi-generational households. Yes, same type of thing. In many countries, many countries are that way. Thank you for the help. Since you are a radar expert, will you be installing radar in your new plane? I doubt that. I doubt that it could take more than 5 pounds up there. No, it's a pretty tiny plane. X-Plane nowhere is near as much overhead as Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've got a computer that I'm using right now that's a pretty hefty computer. I put it together with Brad Rich's help specifically for doing video editing, and it will render video at about 7 or 8 times real time. So if it's a 10-minute video, it'll render it in 1.5 minutes. It's a pretty cool computer, and I think we've got all the things set right in the boot software so that it doesn't blue screen on us. It did for a while. We got that fixed when we got the memory all lined up properly. Yeah, FT70 is a fine radio. That's what I've heard. Okay. many more planes available. Let's see. Looking at upgrading to a quality HTM over the Chinese modules. You know, some of the Chinese are good, some of the Chinese are not good. All of the Yaesu, Kenwood, and ICOM models are good. The Elenco models are pretty good, so you'll be fine. Juan, congratulations on passing your technician exam, and welcome to Ham Radio. And Bob Coombs says, good evening from South Wales. First time I've caught the live stream. Very good. What kind of flight controls do you need for Flight Simulator? I have a yoke, I have the pedals, and I have the throttle quadrant for that. And they work pretty well on the 172. I'm not flying a 172. Let me tell you, this thing really is a lot more emphasis on rudder work than on yoke work. Yeah, let's see. Mark, thank you very much for your super chat. Greatly appreciated from Canada. Heard that Microsoft Flight Simulator wants up to 32 gigabyte of RAM and takes up. Joe, you're dating yourself. DASD, Direct Access Storage Device. That term has been in use for decades. You can always get more RAM. I'm trying to remember what I have. If I have 16 or 32. It'll go up to 64, of course. Okay, let's look at some of these questions. Now, I discovered a problem with my website just today. And that is that somehow my plugins have gotten turned off. And I turned them all back on, set everything up, upgraded to WordPress 5.5, got the classic editor back in place and so on. And I reset up the form for submitting questions on Ask Dave, because there were very few questions for Thursday and none at all for today. So, oh my goodness, that form. It still does not work. I tried sending a query myself, and it just quite simply has not come in. So please don't use that for right now. Use email to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. Email to hamradioanswers. I think what I'm going to do is take that form down for right now. I'm going to try and find a form plugin for this. This is the native form capability in WordPress, and I'm going to go in and take that down until I can find an appropriate plugin for WordPress. If you guys have got a recommendation, let me know. Send it to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. And I'll try and get that thing working again. Most people like to do it on the form. Far more people do it on the form. Maybe if I can find a plugin for forms. Now what a form is if we look over here at the screen, this is the actual form right here. You put your name in here, you put your email in there, and you put your question down there. And then that is sent by the system to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. But when I look at the page, the actual page, I don't know what's going on here. There. This is the contact form right here. And it's the one put out by, it's the native WordPress contact form. So I'm going to see if I can find another one. Is it supposed to go to hamradioanswers@gmail.com? And it doesn't. It's not going. Now, up until today, the whole page did not work. Something was very wrong with it. Okay, let's see. I have had trouble with DX Commander, got it tuned. Then things slide or move and it's no longer tuned. Okay, very good. We'll get that working well. From Dave, highly recommended keeping WordPress up to date. I really do. In fact, it's supposed to update automatically. So something happened to keep it from doing that. And yes, the site's been hacked, I know. I have it set up now so that the only way you can do updates to WordPress is from my fixed IP here. And even so, there are different ways of getting into the system through cPanel and so on, and people do that. And I don't know who they are. It's very sporadic, and it's been happening for years. I did have the site hijacked once rather thoroughly by some. It was a militant, well, a terrorist group out of the Middle East. The only thing I liked about it was their graphics. They had some of the coolest graphics I've ever seen, but they messed up the site pretty good, and it's never really fully recovered. Contact Form 7 for years. Okay, Contact Form 7. I'll take a look at that. Thank you. We have daylight savings time here in Alaska. Makes no sense. Yes. Your ISP may have quietly improved and broken their scripting. Okay. Well, I can't get the pause and forward. Back off Dave's screen. I don't know. Is your mouse hovering over the video? Pro John 13 says, been watching content for years and first time live. Welcome. In my plane, I used to lead a turn with rudder before using the ailerons for turn. It's kind of how this is too. If you turn not the stick, it's a stick. It's not a yoke, it's a stick. And if you turn if you pull the stick to the left, you tilt the aircraft to the left, but the adverse yaw, it kind of keeps it from turning. And so you have to hit the rudder to make it actually turn. And I'm having a heck of a time unlearning what I learned in the Cessna C-182. Jim Whitty is here from Ireland. Yes, Dave, I agree. Okay, this is from James Rellinger, who says, I'm preparing to secure my technician license in a couple weeks and go on to secure my general license soon after. I'm building a horizontal dipole atop a collapsible fiberglass mast mounted to the headache rack in my semi-tractor for deployment when parked for the evening. The elements selected will be 108-inch MFJ whip antenna, extended and tuned resonant to 12 meters. You know, one of the problems with 12 meters is it's rarely open, and it's certainly not open at night. Not been able to learn conclusively through an internet research whether these 112-inch whips can be efficiently tuned for 10 meters using an antenna. Actually, you can tune it to just about anything. If you put a loading coil on it, you can even get down on 80. I would recommend finding a way to get yourself on 40 meters for night, 40 meters or even 80 meters. Now, I know that the long-distance truckers, their daily hours are sometimes cattywampus to the sun, but I think 12 meters you'll not find much there. Okay, having the whip silver-plated for optimal RF, not going to help appreciably. It will be such a small fraction of a dB gain that it's not worth doing. So I hope he's gotten his general and extra. Optical Man Jeff, thank you very much for your super chat. Appreciate that. Oh, we have somebody watching from France. Fox 4, Italy, King, Germany. I will be putting together an AV640 and was wondering if I can tune it when it is on the ground on a sawhorse. It will be high up and it would be a big problem taking it up and down. you can try to tune it on the ground, but you'll need to do so with the thing in a vertical orientation. And you are going to have to resign yourself to taking it down at least once and maybe twice to tweak up the tuning. But if you can get the thing pointed vertically out in the driveway somewhere, that'll help you get your preliminary tune on that. On the sawhorse, it's horizontal and too near the ground. And for that, watching from Puerto Rico under the storm, man, you guys have really gotten blasted with storms. Unbelievable. Olathe, Kansas. We have an Olathe, Colorado just up the street here. Olathe sweet corn from Olathe, Colorado is fantastic. Who wants DST can just go to work from 8 to 4 instead of 9 to 5. Yeah. Yeah. K for King, I'll take it. All right. Try giving the screen a quick tap. Now, if it were an old television, you just slap it on the side. This is from Jim, November 7. Papa Foxtrot. I live in Chula Vista, California at a Via home, and I cannot put up an antenna here. Also, I'm in a power chair. I would like to run HF on 40, 20, and 17 from my chair as a P/M. I have a KX2 and an FT857D. What antenna would you or the OG suggest for an antenna? Well, if you have access to the roof, you can put up just about anything. Now, what I did when I was in the Air Force in bachelor officer quarters, I put my 14 ABQ vertical up there, spread out the radials, and then attached a pole that was in essence welded to a steel sheet, a couple feet across, and then put sandbags on it to hold it there. You can do something like that too. If you can't get outside, if you could put something up, I don't know, on the lawn or get one of the staff to do that, you could put a mag mount on a table. You could put up an octopus, because an octopus can be taken down fairly easily. So you have some options for that. This next one is for the YouTube General course. Oh, this is interesting. He's overcome by events. This is from Mark. Help, I purchased some Baofangs for our family vehicles in case of emergencies. But when I try to dial in the NOAA weather reporting, the radio say cancel as I dial the last digit. I read in the internet that chirp can be used to reset the lower and upper frequency range. I don't know about that. But you can listen to the weather, absolutely. And you can use chirp to do that. Now, one of the problems with the way the Baofangs come is that they assume fairly wide channel spacing, and like 25 kilohertz. So you have to go in and set in the menu the channel spacing parameter. From 25 hertz, you might put it all the way down to 2.5 hertz. That way you'll be able to tune in any of those frequencies. One of the problems that with the thing set so wide is that it won't tune in between those 25 hertz increments. So you'll need to change that. Juan Polanco, thank you very, very much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Let's see. From Grenada. J39CR from Grenada. John, nice to meet you. MDK2 says he lives in the city, in the suburban areas, and have a G5 RV. With a tuner I can go 80 through 10, but was wondering if anything could be added to the antenna system to make it work on 160. You'd have to put a big loading coil on the bottom end of that thing, and operate it as a vertical with a capacity hat. It would not work terribly well, I don't think. With a very wide range tuner you can do it, but you should run low power because the tuner is dissipating a lot of your power. There is a book from the American Radio Relay League on simple antennas for 160 meters that you can take a look at. That might help you a little bit out for that. This is from Reece Simmons, and Reece, please understand these are some old questions. So I'm Reece Simmons, and I'm 14 years old, general class, licensed since June of 2019, but got my tech in January, February. Watched your videos a lot, so much that my mom and uncle know it's you and they nicknamed you Santa Claus. Oh dear. I recently watched your live stream on July 6th, which was last year. And Johan Smith was in the chat. I want to get youth involved in ham radio. Johan, by the way, is about the same age. He's a teenager. Everyone that knows me closely is a huge fan of radio. Like you, I have a YouTube channel and I do some ham radio videos. I have trouble telling people about radio because I have cerebral palsy. I would really like to work with you on getting more youth involved in radio. If you can, please email me back, as I don't watch every live stream. I'll just set this out separate and do that. Okay, let's see. What would be considered broadcasting? I'm missing something. Okay. I'm expecting to move to Japan. Will U.S. region equipment work in the Pacific? Yes, it will. Just remember that your frequency limitations will be different. Okay, hello from Geneva, Nebraska. Longtime fan, first-time live listener, Rob Bledsoe. Thank you for all you do for ham radio. You're very welcome. I try to be helpful. I hope I am. I will be moving from my current location across town to a house share. I know based on the specs of the ICOM 7300, the max current draw of the 21.8 amp on the DC side. Can I plug it into a 15 amp AC socket? Yes, and it doesn't even need to be the only thing there. Remember Ohm's law. You've got to multiply the 21.8 by the 12 amps and 12 volts, and then you'll find that if you divide that by about 10, that's what it is on the 110 volt side, would be about 2.5 to 3 amps. So it's the power supply. I mean, it's a lot more complex than this, but it looks a lot like a DC to DC converter, so a DC transformer. So if you've got low voltage, high current on one side, you've got high voltage, low current on the other. Now, unlike a transformer, they don't work in reverse, but still, yeah. Wondering how many radials I use on my step IR, big IR vertical. There are about, I think, 35 or so, give or take several. They are of various lengths. Some are 16 feet, some are 25, some are just random, and the antenna works very well with that setup. Okay. All right, let's take another email here. This is from Red. Is there any combination of 6 meter and 10 meter mag loop or other compact antenna out there, or a clever design for one, so that somebody with severe constraints on antennas could work these bands with a lightweight movable solution? Thanks for all the videos. Red, I don't know of anybody who sells that, but I believe the MFJ has two remotely tuned loop antennas. They're expensive. They're about in the $500 range. And one of them works down to 40 meters. The other one works only down to 20. And I think that one might go as high as 6. So that mag loop would do the job that you're looking for. Frankly, I would get the one that goes down to 40. It only goes up to 15. But 40 meters is going to be more useful for you We're just barely starting. In fact, there's some controversy over whether we have indeed started, but we're barely starting the new sunspot cycle, so it'll be 3 or 4 years. They go up faster than they go down. 3 or 4 years we're going to be seeing more peak, and we have no idea how big the peak will be until we start to get into it. Okay, this one is from Wim Wonda Maker, who does not provide a call sign. He is in the Netherlands. See quite a few videos about digital voice spots, open spot. Some YouTubers were talking like I have one in my car too. Yes, you can do that, and it's sort of like, in my opinion, why? But what you can do with it is the device. I have one right here. This works with a 440 or 70 centimeter handheld that has DMR or D-Star or is that wiggling? Or D-Star or C4, the ASU one. Okay. Now, this is a Raspberry Pi based thing. It also has Wi-Fi in it. Now, you can take your phone right here and turn this into a hotspot. Okay. And so you talk through your radio to this, which talks to the hotspot and puts it on the internet. That way, if you're somewhere where your radio can get internet, then you're okay and can talk on DMR. Now, the question I have for that is, you may be able to hit DMR repeaters in places where you can't get cell phone coverage. I know cell phone coverage is pretty universal back east of the Mississippi, but it is, and in Europe, but it is by no means ubiquitous out here in Colorado. But that does work, and that is what they are doing. Okay, let's see. I think it's time that HTs have built-in Wi-Fi. The Anytone UV878D878UV Plus has built-in Bluetooth. So that will work with your car, and just like you can have hands-free on your telephone, on your phone. Nobody calls these telephones anymore. On your phone, you can have hands-free. You can do the same hands-free thing with your handy-talkie on that. Now, the one thing I haven't seen yet, but I've heard it exists, is scratch this. You've got a microphone and you've got you've got a microphone in your computer. Why not connect that directly to the DMR network and forget the radio? And I'm sure there are people who figured out how to do that. Okay, this is from Rhoney Lotrel. As a retiree, and now has some more time for ham radio. Okay. Yes, it has. He started with the Army Signal Corps and Microwave System Operation back when it was all analog frequency division multiplexed equipment. Let's see. You are what is good about ham radio. Well, thank you. He's just saying thank you for the videos, and you're welcome. And this one is from Tom, who is listening here. And Tom, this is from July 2nd of 2019. It's a little old. I had this stack that I just somehow never got to. He said he sent me a long email a few days ago regarding the Hack RF1 software-defined radio that one viewer asked about. It's a half-duplex receiver transmitter that covers from 1 megahertz to 6 gigahertz with power supply output of about 50 milliwatts at the lower frequencies to less than 1 milliwatt at the higher end. I looked at the output using the spectrum analyzer that a friend at work had, and it is not all that clean. Now that is common with, like the radios like the G20, for example. Nice little radio, but it barely meets FCC specs. And if you put an amplifier on it, definitely it won't meet FCC specs. Because you take all of those spurious stuff and just push them out where, make them stronger and so on. So it's really handy if you want to, let's see, use a key fob that opens a car door as your transmitter. It says, as a receiver, the SDR Play RSP1A is much better. I know, I had a couple other little SDRs, and then when the RSP1A came out, that's what I've used ever since. It's only about $100, and it's a very, very fine radio with lots of very good qualities to it. And it's not just 8 bits, it's I think like 14 or something. This is from Skip Stover KN4UEN. First, let me say he enjoys the videos on multi-band dipoles. Can you not have a 3-band dipole at whatever band's configured with the longest wire 90 degrees from vertical, the next longest wire at 67, and the shortest 45 as an inverted V? Yeah, you could. Sure. I mean, that's kind of a riff on the fan dipole. Or you could do this as a simple fan dipole. And yeah, it would work fine. Now, one of the problems with fan dipoles, of course, is it is possible that tuning one leg of it will cause the other legs to change a little bit. So, but now the DXEE antenna from Alpha Delta that I have outside, it's one of the antennas I tested in searching for the reference antenna. It is a fan dipole and works fine. It's a combination fan dipole and a trap dipole. It's trapped on 40 and 20, and then it's got, I think, 15 and 10 on there too. And it's a nice little thing. Okay, Scott talks about getting his antenna up. Harry Rundle, thank you very much for the $5. I greatly appreciate that. Goes into channel funds. And Billing Tano passed his general recently, waiting on his call sign. Congratulations and welcome to Ham Radio. And Scott Buttrick had an antenna party Monday. We got the Delta Loop antenna up, and it ended up being diamond shaped, but works wonderfully from 10 to 80. Great. C4FM, thank you. I was thinking C3ISR. C3ISR is a term for Command Control Communications Intelligence Reconnaissance. IFR, and intelligence, I can't remember what the F is, force management or something, and reconnaissance, obviously a DoD acronym. And that's not what Yates is using. Anyone ever try those cheap Pixie QRP? Well, they were all the rage about 2 years ago. I built one and it never worked. It was like $7. They're useless. Can't remember the name, but someone in the UK or Canada makes it easy to assemble YM mag loop out of stamped plate. Full band, no tuning after initial setup. Well, I don't know how they can do that without tuning, because those are very high Q. I'd like to see a web link for that if you've got one. I'd really like to see that. Oh, typo, 6 meter. Okay. 6 meter mag loop out of stamped plate. Okay. Interesting. BlueDV provides a way to use computer to talk directly to DMR. Nice. It only requires an AMBE USB dongle to work. Okay, so that's where they do the magic. Are the early version D-Star radios still worth getting, or is it best to go for the latest? I think they all work. If you can buy early version D-Star radios for inexpensive, then why not? Yeah. There is an SDR Uno software for SDR Play. Yes, the SDR Uno is the software. The SDR Play is the radio. And it's the house brand software for its radio. And I recommend it because, one, free. I always like free. Hams like free. And two, it's made to take advantage of every single feature in the radio. So it's not generic. If there's something adjustable in that radio, you can get to it from the software. Now, I will say this about SDR Uno. It is not the most user-friendly software out there, that's for sure. But for doing the basics and for listening on the ham bands, it's pretty good. But if you want to do other types of exploring, it's got a learning curve. You can really have to climb. M.A. Nikam says, hello from India. Does a fan dipole have greater loss compared to a single band dipole? I would say if it does, it's less than a dB, and maybe way less than a dB. It's almost not worth considering. A fan dipole is a perfectly good antenna solution and is easy to build, inexpensive, and multiband. I would say if you've got the wire and coax, go ahead and make one, or feed it with just open wire line and a tuner. Okay, and when using ferrite rings to eliminate AC noise, how many revolution wraps should you do? I would not overwrap the AC power cord, but you go 2 or 3 around through there. I have a toroid core that's about this big that sometimes I use for that sort of thing. I have one with a bunch of telephone wire wrapped through that. I had problems with my signal getting into the house telephone system, so I put that toroid in there and it fixed the problem immediately. Command control, computer, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, C4ISR. Thank you. Kevin, it's obviously been many years since I have been in the service. So, let's see. Yeah, well, it was C3I, and then it was C3, and then it was C2, command and control. And command and control was inclusive of all of those other things, and then the different silos started pulling themselves out separately so they could get more money. But can I keep my current call sign when I pass the general to which I am studying for? Absolutely you can. Yes. Greetings from Iraq. Iraq. I don't know how you pronounce that, but Stephen, nice to meet you. Looking to explore digital modes beyond what WSJTX offers. Any suggestions for alternate modes, such as Olivia, Rydia, etc.? Yes, absolutely, Daniel. Look at the software called FLDigi. FLDIGI. Fox India. No, Fox Lima. Delta India, Golf India. FLDigi. And that software has all those other digital modes that you're talking about. Those other digital modes are not so popular these days because everyone is on FT8 or some equivalent of that. But you will still find people on those modes. Now, there are regularly RTTY contests. And a lot of that software, like FLDigi, is set up so you can do the macros for the RTTY contests. So that is really something to take a look at. Look in Contest Corral for a RTTY contest coming up, and then that's a way to make sure your setup works and everything. Okay, I was listening, this is Della, listening a couple nights ago to a conversation between a ham in Maine and South Florida. Now, I could hear the ham in Maine, but nothing of the one in Florida. I'm in South Georgia. Yes, that's not unusual at all. The one in South Florida was actually too close to you. His signal, or her signal, was skipping up, hitting the ionosphere, and going directly over you. and coming down in the area where the main could get it. He was also coming down in a much broader area too. The one from Maine you could hear because it had already hit the horizon, and it was coming down in an area that included both you and that other ham. So what you talk about is quite normal on HF, and it's called skip. It literally skips right over you. I signed for the vanity call sign I now have and like it. I was just wondering. Yeah, you can keep it. Dave will get to it, but the software I know that handles many other digital modes is FL Digi. Yes, yes. Look for ham radio concepts. Okay. Ham radio concepts is the name of a YouTube channel, too. That's I forget who's the name that goes with that. Can't cut and paste that. Using an end fed of about 100 feet. Good. It's also slow scan television. Yeah, it's really more like fax. It's still pictures. With all knowledge, young ham would be blessed to hang out with me. I don't know. Maybe they could. It would be very nice to have an assistant who's also a ham, but it's really hard to find. Okay, and now the RIDI tests allow FD8. Yes. Speaking of fan dipoles, I have an aluminum do-it-yourself rotatable 20-meter dipole. Had me thinking, would adding a 15-meter dipole over the 20 using the same feed point be viable? Yeah, it's equivalent to a fan dipole. Yeah, but the feed points have got to be the same. So you'd want to take it up and out or something like that. Yeah. Info on tuning the... Do you know an easy way to put up and down an antenna with just one person? Yes, I do. It's called Go Find Somebody to Help You. And I would really recommend it. Those antennas are not that heavy, but if you're just holding it by one end, it's got a huge lever arm that puts a lot of torque on that, and it's very hard to hold it. In fact, you can bend it doing that. Get somebody to help you, if nothing other than be a safety observer. So ideally you would have somebody who's a safety observer and another person who's helping you with the antenna. The job of the safety observer is one thing, and that is to call 911 if something goes wrong. They do that before anything else, before any helping, before trying to assist, anything. They call 911. So you get 911 on the way. You don't want to fall off or have that thing fall on you and gash your head or something like that. Safety, safety. Okay, although I will tell you, I've put up an awful lot of antennas by myself. So, I have done that. Okay, will there eventually be more FTA watering holes? I think there will be as time moves on. It's getting ridiculously crowded. I'm a FL to Hell club member. They have a 40-meter Hellschreiber net every week, and FL Digi covers that too. Okay, good. This is from Carrie KC6LRY. How do you find the stability of the attachment of the Bluetooth push-to-talk button for the 878 Plus? I'm in my second button and the connection to the radio comes and goes during use. That's the problem I had with it too. I have never pinned that down. I moved on to other problems, I guess, but they claim that with some of the firmware updates, they fixed a lot of those things. Now, don't forget that Bluetooth, there are some ways, and I don't know how Bluetooth works, but you can change channels or slots or something, because your phone is using Bluetooth. If you've got somebody else in the car, their phone is using Bluetooth. Your car is using Bluetooth, and it is possible to get interference between those. This is from Dwight Casis KN4UKR. Hi Dave, in your video you mentioned you worked at Northrop. I did, from 1980 through 1983. My father-in-law worked there as well, Bill Warren. Thought maybe you knew him. There were several thousand employees there. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. I was vice president of the local ham club for a while at Northrop. And we had very nice field days out there too. Great radio, great videos. Thank you for the great. I design antennas and build them. Wanted to send you one to have and evaluate. Says my father worked at the El Segundo facility. I was out in El Segundo for a while too, but I was with Northrop Electronics Division, and then we moved back to the Hawthorne facility. And if you want to send me an antenna to evaluate, certainly, that's fine. This is a long one. Let's see. Oh, from Tom. Tom Frericks. And just giving some experiences here with some practice tests on, let's see, the technician exam. He took his technician exam. Yeah. Well, that's very good. Okay. Now, so this actually is his initial experience with ham radio in June of last year. And Tom, you're really doing well now, and appreciate all the information you gave me on the Nano VNA. I need to make a video about that. I'm getting behind on the videos because of this extra thing. I'm really putting the emphasis on the extra, and we'll continue to do that. Let's see, South Texas checking in. Cecil. And will there eventually be more FT8 watering holes? Yes, Feldo Club. Regarding safety, 911 can't help if people screw up antennas with power lines. In that case, calling them. Well, if it's a health issue, like electrocution, burns, falls, anything like that, you want 911. And if you're having a problem with an antenna falling across the power line, remember that 911 doesn't just bring an ambulance. 911 alerts the entire public safety network, from the sheriff to anybody. And so 911 is your first choice when you have an emergency. And they know how to get in touch with the power lines and all those people like that. So I would recommend against second guessing them and go to 911 and talk to them. By the way, there's a weird political ad making the rounds that if you vote for the wrong people, 911 will go away. It's absurd. They're saying if you defund the police, 911 will go away. Well, in a lot of places, like here, the police don't run 911. There's an agency that runs 911 for all the local agencies, and they act as the implementing agency. Like here in Montrose, I think it is the Montrose police who run it, but the Montrose sheriff is on it, fire, rescue, and also I think they do the 911 calls from Uray County get up there too. And when you're out in the boondocks like this, it becomes very important that you have the right address in the system. And all of the various, from Forest Service to search and rescue, because we have backcountry, huge amounts of backcountry up here. There's helicopters that go in and out, and they're actually associated with the hospital. And I mean, the whole emergency services thing is very, very complex, and held together with this 911. It's called E911. You don't dial E911. The E stands for the electronic 911 that pulls everything together so they can pull all this stuff. It's really pretty marvelous what they do. And well worth the tax money spent providing it. Let's see. Also interfere with Bluetooth. Okay, yeah. Got confused on that. I watched so much of these programs, can't keep them straight. QRT, good weekend. Trust me, if you say power lines, the 911 operator will be on the horn to the power company. Good, but they might also dispatch an ambulance. They might dispatch fire truck. Bluetooth is a 79 designated channels frequency hopping. Channel bandwidth is 1 megahertz. It hops 1600 hops per second. Okay. All right. Thank you. Enhance 911. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And that particular one I'm going to go ahead and delete. Yeah, it's a separate group in some areas. It varies differently. But the nice thing about E911 is the standardization across the country of how it's done. A lot of the emergency services are becoming more and more and more standardized, and FEMA is kind of at the center of that. By the way, if you want to learn how the command post system works, there are FEMA courses that you can go online and take for free that not only will tell you how all this stuff comes together, but will actually give you a certificate. And if you want to go get involved as a volunteer in some of these public safety efforts as a ham, it's often through ARES or RACES, but there's something called auxiliary communications they do too. But if you're a ham and want to get involved with these things, you can take these courses so that when something happens, you'll know the vocabulary. When people say this, they mean this, and the processes, procedures, and so on and so forth. Public safety is a large aspect of ham radio. It is one of the fundamental purposes of it, one of 6, I think. And it's something to get involved in. We've got several people in our club who are deeply involved in it. And out here in the boondocks, there aren't that many people, and the system relies on volunteers. So, okay, let's see. Oh, my goodness, we're out of time. Let's see. I'll put these aside here and say thank you all for being here. Let's see. The head injury didn't stop bleeding, put a tourniquet around the victim's neck. Yeah. Harrison, thank you for being here. Okay, I'm going to say 73. Now, send your questions to hamradioanswers@gmail.com until I can figure out how to get this webpage working again. And I'll try to have that up. But my first priority is getting the extra videos back up and operating. So I will see you on Thursday, our next live chat, which will be coming up Thursday. Let's see, today's the 22nd. Let me double click on that so I can give you an exact date. It'll be the 27th, and we'll also have one on the 29th. And then over Labor Day weekend, I don't know if I'll be able to do one or not. We'll find out. I'll let you know. Thank you very much for everything. I have a 40-meter dipole in the attic with a 20-meter whisker. Fan dipoles. I've gotten an auto tuner. Do you really need the whisper with the tuner? Yeah. 20 meters does not like a 40-meter antenna. It's a full wavelength, and dipoles need to be an odd multiple of a half dipole. So, 73 to everybody, and we will see you next time. And so, enjoy and stay safe. Stay away from the fires. Stay cool, and support your, support people around you who are dealing with the COVID thing. And good luck. And so I will say 73.